Two nations, two strategies, one race for technological dominance. The United States, long the engine of global innovation, now faces a rival that has closed the gap faster than anyone expected. China's rise in critical technologies is no longer a prediction. It is happening right now, and the outcome matters to everyone. From uncontested leadership to real competition. For much of the last century, the United States stood unchallenged in science and technology. It commanded the most advanced chips, the deepest pools of venture capital, and global platforms built by companies like Apple, Microsoft, and Google. These giants, often grouped into what markets now call the Mag 7, Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, Nvidia, and Tesla, became symbols of American dominance. But reports from the Information Technology and Innovation Foundation and the Australian Strategic Policy Institute show how quickly the ground has shifted. China has overtaken the US in key measures of innovation capacity. It now leads in 57 out of 64 critical technology categories, compared to just 7 for the US. The transformation is visible in research output. In the top 10% of scientific publications, China surpasses the US across all 8 critical domains, from robotics to energy. Why publications matter? Some may ask, why do academic publications matter? Because they are the seed of tomorrow's breakthroughs. ASPI data highlights the gap clearly. In the energy and environment field, China contributes 46% of top-tier papers. The United States produces just 10%. In artificial intelligence, often viewed as America's stronghold, China accounts for 30% of top publications, while the US stands at 18%. This isn't just about numbers. Behind these figures are government-backed policies, subsidies, and ecosystems linking academia, industry, and the military. Together, they explain how China has shifted from being a fast follower to becoming a genuine innovation leader. The lead is even sharper when viewed at the subdomain level. In hypersonic detection and tracking technologies, China leads the US by 60 percentage points. In high-specification machining processes, critical for advanced manufacturing, the gap is 56 points. These are not marginal differences. They show how China is shaping areas with direct defense and industrial applications. Where the US still holds ground, the US has not been completely overtaken. According to ASPI, American researchers maintain advantages in 7 of the 64 categories. These include vaccines and medical countermeasures, atomic clocks, and quantum computing fields with obvious strategic weight. Smaller but real leads also exist in natural language processing, genetic engineering, nuclear medicine, and small satellites. Still, these are exceptions rather than the rule. The roots of China's rise. China's achievements are not sudden. They are the product of decades-long investment in education, research, and industrial policy. Programs like the 1,000 Talents Plan successfully attracted foreign-trained scientists, particularly in semiconductors. Meanwhile, China now graduates more STEM students than any country in the world, over 4 times the US total. Another factor is Beijing's military-civil fusion strategy, which erases barriers between civilian innovation and military application. The investor perspective. Beyond military implications, the US-China tech rivalry has become a central issue for investors. Saxo Bank's research team put it bluntly in September 2025. China tech is now a real competitor. American giants face doubts over AI monetization and high valuations, while Chinese companies like Alibaba are already showing earnings growth from AI and cloud adoption. Restrictions, particularly US export controls, have only accelerated China's drive to innovate domestically. The question for markets is no longer if China will catch up, but how far and how fast. 2 tracks, one narrowing gap. The competition is now playing out on two tracks. US technology remains the global benchmark at the frontier, pushing into areas like quantum computing and advanced AI chips. But China is catching up fast within its own borders, focusing on efficiency, scalability, and integration across the economy. Alibaba's rebound offers an example. Its cloud division has expanded strongly thanks to AI demand, proving Chinese firms can monetize new technologies at scale. Meanwhile, Beijing's policy support and the consumer base of 1.4 billion people provide advantages that are hard to replicate. The valuation gap. Investors also notice the valuation gap. The US Mag 7 trades at around 30 times forward earnings. The China Tech 10 Alibaba, Baidu, BYD, JD.com, Meituan, Medea, NetEase, Tencent, Trip.com, and Xiaomi trades closer to 13 times. This difference reflects policy risk and limited global reach, but it also suggests potential upside if earnings momentum continues. Performance comparisons are mixed. Year to date, the China Tech 10 has outperformed, driven by AI-linked gains at Alibaba and Tencent and strong EV growth from BYD. Over the last 5 years, however, the Mag 7 has massively outperformed, thanks to NVIDIA's AI chip dominance and trillion-dollar platforms from Microsoft, Amazon, and Alphabet. The hidden risks. Yet, cheap valuations and policy support do not erase risk. Investors recall Beijing's heavy-handed interventions, such as the cancellation of Ant Group's IPO in 2020 and antitrust penalties on Alibaba. The gaming restrictions on Tencent, introduced overnight, gutted one of its most profitable businesses. Markets remember this unpredictability, and it weighs on valuations. Geopolitics also limits China's reach. Unlike US firms, which earn nearly half their revenues overseas, Chinese tech companies remain overwhelmingly domestic. Efforts to expand abroad have been slowed by Washington's lobbying and export controls, as well as concerns over governance and trust. Then there are structural challenges. AI adoption has driven much of US tech's growth, but China faces hurdles. Without access to top-tier GPUs, companies rely on domestic alternatives. Huawei and SMIC have vast budgets to close the gap, but competing with NVIDIA's global ecosystem remains a steep climb. Even if the hardware challenge is solved, the economic case for mass AI adoption is weaker in a lower-wage economy already facing youth unemployment. Why the US still leads. Cliffman, writing for ETF Shares, described this contradiction clearly. China produces world-leading products in areas like electric vehicles and batteries. Yet, its companies remain boxed in by politics, geopolitics, and domestic focus. Meanwhile, the United States retains enduring strengths. It continues to attract the brightest global talent. It is home to the most advanced chips, and its firms can raise and spend tens of billions of dollars to push the boundaries of AI, quantum computing, and even space exploration. Lessons for investors. So what should investors take away? First, China's rise is real, and ignoring it would be a mistake. Domestic firms like Alibaba, Tencent, and BYD are proving they can deliver growth under pressure. But risks. Political, geopolitical, and structural remain high. Second, US tech is expensive, but for good reason. Companies like Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Alphabet still define the frontier, and their global reach is unmatched. For many, the smarter strategy may be a two-track approach. US tech for global leadership and China tech for domestic scale. And finally, as with all investing, valuations tell a story. Cheapness rarely comes without cause, and premium prices often reflect real advantages. The US-China technology rivalry is not simply about who makes the best chips or who publishes the most papers. It is a contest over the foundations of economic, military, and scientific power in the 21st century. For investors, policymakers, and citizens, this race is not abstract. It shapes the devices we use, the energy we consume, and the security we rely on. The story is still being written, but one thing is clear: the gap between America's tech titans and China's dragons is narrower than ever. Is China's efficiency-first model enough to overtake America's frontier-driven approach? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.